and now plays for Spal in Serie C, is the nation star man, though he has only been capped 21 times since 2015, now aged 33. Lithuania. Gvidas Ginaitis. The last of the Baltic states to feature, Lithuania are, if anything, even less interested in football than Estonia and Latvia. Basketball reigned supreme in the first state to declare independence from the USSR, as I recently discussed in a documentary about Lithuania's national stadium in Vilnius, which has taken 40 years to build and still looks like this. Gvidas Ginaitis is Lithuania's answer to Messi in that he is their best player. He's nothing like Messi in any other sense. 6 feet and 3 inches tall, strong, athletic, and capable of getting up and down the pitch, I think Ginaitis is our youngest inclusion yet, age 19, and currently capped 14 times. He plays for Torino in Serie A and has bags of potential. Luxembourg. Leandro Barreiro. Luxembourg may be small, about the same size as Leeds, but underestimate them at your peril. In the last few years, they've won against Bosnia, Ireland and Montenegro, as well as drawing against Hungary, Turkey and Bulgaria. Spartak Moscow midfielder Christopher Martins and Slovan Bratislava loanee Gerson Rodriguez are key players, but it is Mainz sitter Leandro Barreira who is Luxembourg's main man. Capped 56 times already, having only recently turned 24, Barreiro could go on to become one of the most capped footballers of all time. A tireless and tough-tackling midfield workhorse who always looks as though he'd be a nightmare to play against, Barreiro's ceiling is probably high enough for him to go on to play Champions League football at some stage if he maximises his potential. Malta. Teddy Teuma. Yes, before you say anything, that is his real name. I mean, I'm not 100% sure that's how it's pronounced, but pretty much that's his name. Malta are another of Europe's minnows, and they are still yet to fully bounce back from Michael Mifsud's retirement. Teddy Teuma, age 30, is comfortably the national team star man, currently playing his club football for Rennes in Ligue 1, who paid €4 million to sign him from Union Saint-Gilloise in the summer. Born in France but of Maltese descent, Teuma only agreed to represent Malta in 2020, instantly becoming the standout player in the squad and the driving force in Malta's midfield, and he has already racked up 34 caps during that time. Moldova. Ion Niculescu. You know it, I know it, only an idiot wouldn't know it. Ion Niculescu is the best footballer from Moldova. Sure, Spartak Moscow's Oleg Rybchuk, Lecce's Arta Ionita, and Grenoble's Vergilu Postolaki are all in the conversation, but Ion Niculescu, with a name so Moldovan or Romanian that it sounds like it was generated by AI, is the man of the moment. Aged 25, Niculescu joined Eredivisie side Heerenveen from Beitar Jerusalem in 2023, and he has struck 5 times in 15 games during his debut campaign. A bit of an old-school poacher, Niculescu has struck 15 times in 43 games for Moldova, which means that, aged 25, he is already the country's all-time leading goalscorer. Montenegro. Stefan Savic. It is a crying shame that injuries prevented one-time Fiorentina wonderkid Stevan Jovetic from reaching his full potential, now playing for Olympiakos in Greece, though it should be said that he is still Montenegro's all-time leading goalscorer. Fellow former Man City Montenegrin Stefan Savic, by comparison, has certainly managed to maximise his talents. Now in his 9th season at Atletico Madrid, Savic has now played almost 300 games for the club, winning both La Liga and the Europa League. An honourable mention must go to Lazio fullback Adam Marusic, who has been a mainstay for the Serie A side for the last 7 seasons. Netherlands. Virgil van Dijk. Frankie de Jong deserves some form of recognition, having been excellent at Barcelona this season and already capped more than 50 times by the Netherlands, but ultimately it has to be Virgil van Dijk. Although Van Dijk had won fewer than 20 caps when he was de Jong's age, having taken the scenic route to the top via Groningen, Celtic and Southampton, few players have looked more comfortable once arriving at that destination. Certainly one of, if not the best centre-back in the world since joining Liverpool over 6 years ago for £75 million, Van Dijk now captains the Netherlands and will be pivotal to their success, or lack thereof, in at least the next 2 major tournaments. North Macedonia. Elif Elmas. He might only be 24 years old, but Elif Elmas has already won an incredible 58 caps for North Macedonia. Once a promising prospect in the under-19s, Elmas is now comfortably the star man for the small Balkan nation. An incredibly well-rounded and intelligent footballer, Elmas joined Bundesliga side RB Leipzig during the most recent January transfer window for a reported €23 million, having made close to 200 appearances for Napoli over the last 4.5 years, including 47 last season as they lifted the Serie A title. Northern Ireland, Conor Bradley. Is this a little premature? Quite possibly. Conor Bradley has only made 9 Premier League appearances for Liverpool to date, though it is just worth noting that he has made 26 appearances for the Reds in all competitions. He played over 50 games on loan at Bolton, and he has already been capped 15 times by Northern Ireland. Bradley's closest competitor is a man at the complete opposite end of his career, Manchester United's Johnny Evans, but between the two of them, I feel as though Bradley is the right choice. Quick, purposeful, and incredibly attack-minded, Bradley has had a blistering breakout campaign at Anfield, and if he proves to be as good as he looks at the moment, it will be interesting to see what Jurgen Klopp's successor does in terms of trying to get both him and Trent Alexander-Arnold into their starting 11. Norway. Erling Haaland. Norway's current crop of players, including several talented young players, has been described as a golden generation. Yet, on the pitch, they're not very good, as I covered in another recent video. There can be no doubting, in particular, either Martin Ødegaard or Erling Haaland's talents as individuals, though, and as good as the Arsenal captain is, Haaland scored 52 goals in 53 games in his debut campaign at a club that won the treble last season. Even if Roy Keane were right about the rest of Haaland's game being League 2 standard, that would be enough to make Haaland a standout player from almost any country, and Norway is no exception. Poland. Robert Lewandowski. He might be 35 years old, and he may finally have shown some signs of regression this season, only averaging a goal every other game, rather than a goal a game, but Robert Lewandowski is still quite comfortably Poland's star man, and alongside Zbigniew Boniek and Kazimierz Dyna, one of the country's 3 greatest players of all time. The third highest goal scorer of the 21st century, trailing only the indomitable Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, Lewandowski has scored 675 goals in 981 games for both club and country. This season, he has scored 20 and 41 for Barcelona, so while Wojciech Szczesny may be the bigger cult hero, and the bigger hero in Poland following their 2024 qualification playoff win, it is Lewandowski who retains his crown for at least this season. Portugal. Bernardo Silva. Robert Lewandowski might still be on top for Poland at 35, but I'm afraid that I can't keep Cristiano Ronaldo there for Portugal at the age of 39. That's partly because, well, 39 is really old for a footballer, and Ronaldo has spent the last 18 months playing in Saudi Arabia, but it's also because Portugal just have much better players than Poland. No offence to my Polish brethren, you know that I love you. Not you. Rafael Leao, Bruno Fernandes, and Ruben Dias are all wonderful footballers who aren't touching 40, but I don't think that any of them are better than Bernardo Silva. One of the best and most effective footballers on the planet, Silva is smart, technically superb, he can play anywhere, and then, just to top it all off, he's probably one of the hardest working footballers in Europe. Stiff competition, but it was an easy choice in my view. Republic of Ireland. Evan Ferguson. I know he's gone off the boil a little bit in recent months, which maybe just opens up the door to the likes of Kevin Kelleher, who tends not to even start for Ireland, Nathan Collins, and the Championship's leading goal scorer this season, Sammy Smodics, but I still think of Ferguson as the main man, and if Ireland's quasi-golden generation is to come good, they will need him to become very good indeed. Robust, athletic, and clinical at his best, Ferguson has so far scored 16 goals in 65 games for Brighton and 3 in 12 for Ireland. And he replaces Vidas Gereitas as the youngest inclusion in this video, aged only 19 years and 5 months. Romania. Nicolae Stanciu. Perhaps not for long, but still stealing in ahead of recent Tottenham recruits Radu Dragushin at this moment in time, Nicolae Stanciu is a man who no one could ever accuse of not having chased the bag with every last morsel of his being. A really capable and creative attacking midfielder, Stanciu made his name at Steaua Bucharest, Anderlecht and Sparta Prague, but in January 2019 he joined Al Ahly in the Saudi Pro League, followed by a return to Europe with Slavia Prague. Then he joined Wuhan Three Towns in the Chinese Super League, and now he's back in Saudi Arabia with Damak, where he plays alongside former Tottenham man George Kevin Nkudu. Russia. Alexander Golovin. Russia may currently be suspended by FIFA and UEFA following the full-scale invasion of Ukraine and a load of European countries, stating that they would refuse to take to the field against them as a result, but they are still UEFA members, and at least partly in Europe, so they feature nonetheless. Alexander Golovin and Alexei Maremchuk of Monaco and Atalanta have long been Russia's two outstanding players, and Golovin is the pick of the pair as far as I'm concerned. A really gifted playmaker, Golovin has been one of the outstanding players in Ligue 1 this season. It's a real shame that he no longer gets to compete on the international stage. Probably not as much of a shame as loads of Ukrainians being killed and people's homes being shelled, but a shame nonetheless. San Marino. Nicola Nani. Haters will say that San Marino are the worst national team in the world, when in actual fact, they're better than at least 10 other teams and just get screwed over by the FIFA World Ranking system. Despite improvements in recent years and becoming much more competitive, San Marino have still never won a competitive game. Nicola Nani, who plays for Serie C side Olbia, is the country's star man, aged 23, having already scored a historic goal for San Marino against Poland in a 7-1 defeat, but still. Honourable mentions go to Filippo Fabri and Eduardo Colombo, who are both in their early 20s as well, and also play in Serie C. Scotland. Andy Robertson. A case could be made for John McGinn, and some may even argue Kieran Tierney, and in Euro 2024 qualifying at least, Scott McTominay, but Andy Robertson is by far the closest that Scotland would come to getting a player into a World or European 11. The former Queen's Park, Dundee United and Hull City man is now in his 7th season at Liverpool, having recently turned 30, where he has made almost 300 appearances, becoming one of the best left-backs in the world. Serbia. Dusan Tadic. Serbia have had some talented players for a while now, but they still haven't gotten out of the group stage of a World Cup and hadn't even qualified for Euros until 2024, since becoming Serbia rather than either Yugoslavia or Serbia and Montenegro. Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, Alexander Mitrovic, Dusan Vlahovic and Filip Kostic all earn honorable mentions, but I still think that a 35-year-old Dusan Savic is Serbia's star now. Incredible at IS and just as impressive since signing for Fenerbahce, Tadic has made 28 goal contributions in 48 games this season, and he's won more than 100 caps for Serbia. Slovakia. Milan Skriniar. The toughest choice in this entire video, in my view, is between PSG centre-back Milan Skriniar and Napoli midfielder Stanislav Lobotka for Slovakia. You can just about toss a coin between the pair of them, and they will be Slovakia's star men in Group E, alongside Belgium, Romania and Ukraine at Euro 2024, which should give them a shot at progression. Skriniar edges it, having been a top-class centre-back at the very highest level for the last 7 or 8 years, but I wouldn't argue with anyone who'd pick Lobotka. Slovenia. Jan Oblak. It was unfortunate, to put it mildly, that Slovenia's two best players of the modern era, Jan Oblak and Samir Handanovic, both just so happened to be goalkeepers, meaning that they could only ever play one of them. Handanovic, who retired fully in 2023, retired from international football in 2015, paving the way for Oblak to become the national team's undisputed number 1. Since his first full season at Atletico Madrid, almost 9 years ago, Oblak has been quite possibly the most consistent and impressive goalkeeper on the planet, fully deserving of being mentioned alongside the likes of Manuel Neuer, Thibaut Courtois and Alisson Becker. Slovenia will be expected to finish bottom of Group C at the Euros against England, Denmark and Serbia, and if they are to defy those expectations, they'll most likely need Oblak to pull some absolute worldies out the bag. Spain. Rodri. Make no mistake, Spain might not be the same team as they were 15 years ago, but they still have some outstanding players. Nonetheless, Rodri stands out head and shoulders above anyone else, as he would in most national teams in fairness. Arguably the best pivot, number 8, or whatever the hell he is at this stage, he can seemingly do it all, in the world, he has to feature ahead of the likes of Pedri, Gavi, and 16-year-old Barca sensation Lamine Yamal. Sweden. Viktor Gyökeres. Sweden didn't even come close to qualifying for Euro 2024, finishing 9 points behind Group F runners-up Austria, which is pretty extraordinary when you think that they are capable of naming a front three of Dejan Kulusevski, Viktor Gyökeres and Alexander Isak, and compare that with some of the attacking talent that teams who did qualify have at their disposal. Those three are the standouts, and out of them, I think that Gyökeres is the most impressive. Outstanding in the Championship last season, it was truly bizarre that a Premier League team didn't sign him, and now whoever does, possibly Arsenal, will end up paying closer to 80 rather than 20 million euros. Gyökeres has scored 36 goals in 42 games since joining Sporting, which will quite possibly be enough to earn him a Ballon d'Or nomination. Switzerland. Gregor Kobel. Switzerland are among the most consistent national teams in the world, having reached at least the round of 16 in each of the last 5 major tournaments, but only once having got beyond that stage, at Euro 2020, where they went out in the quarter-finals. Once again, I am putting myself at odds with a very experienced international head coach, Murat Yakin in this case, by naming Gregor Kobel Switzerland's best player full stop, when he clearly doesn't even think that he's Switzerland's best keeper. Inter Milan's Jan Sommer, capped 88 times and counting, was Switzerland's number 1 in Euro 2024 qualifying. Meanwhile, even Cameroon-born Lorient goalkeeper Yvonne Mavogo has won more caps, 8, than Kobel, 5. It will be interesting to see if that's still the case come the Euros, following what has been an outstanding season for Kobel at Borussia Dortmund. Honourable mentions go to Sommer, Manuel Akanji, and, yes, still, especially for Switzerland, man of the hour Xherdan Shaqiri. Turkey. Hakan Çalhanoğlu. It would be just typical of Turkey, having been so many people's dark horses, myself included, going into Euro 2020, where they were absolutely dreadful, if they managed to make a mark at Euro 2024, now that everyone is writing them off. Hakan Çalhanoğlu is undoubtedly Turkey's star man, and has been for some time, currently enjoying an outstanding season at soon-to-be Serie A champions Inter Milan, scoring 14 goals from midfield. Honourable mentions go to Merih Demiral, who now plays in the Saudi Pro League for Al Ahly, 19-year-old Real Madrid wonderkid Arda Güler, and a special word, if you'll indulge me, to 24-year-old Abdulkadir Amar, once sought after by Liverpool and Manchester City, who has been excellent since signing for Hull City. Ukraine. Artem Dovbyk. Our penultimate inclusion, Ukraine are currently having to play their home games in Poland, Germany, Slovakia and the Czech Republic, owing to Russia's ongoing invasion. But that didn't stop them from qualifying for Euro 2024, overcoming Bosnia and Iceland in the playoffs. Ukraine will hope that Mikhailo Mudryk, Alexander Zinchenko, and either one of their two promising young goalkeepers, Andrei Lunin and Anatole Trubin, from Real Madrid and Benfica, can be the difference makers in Germany, where Ukraine can expect plenty of support from most neutrals, but Artem Dovbyk's form will likely be the key to their potential progression from Group E. Dovbyk has scored 16 goals in 28 La Liga games since joining high-flying Girona in the summer, who will compete in the Champions League next season, putting him joint top of the La Liga scoring charts alongside Jude Bellingham. Wales. Brennan Johnson. Wales were unable to follow up their first qualification since 1958 with a third successive Euros qualification, falling at the final hurdle, quite literally, on penalties against Poland. There is some cause for optimism for Welsh football fans in the post-Bale and Ramsey era, though, as a lot of their players, like Williams, Ethan Ampadu, and most notably Brennan Johnson, are still in their early 20s. Signed by Spurs from Nottingham Forest for a fee of almost £50 million in the summer, Johnson has only grown in confidence as the campaign has gone on. He has made 5 goal contributions in his last 6 appearances, taking him up to 12 for the season now, and looks to be nailing down a starting berth at this stage, possibly ahead of Dejan Kulusevski. Argentina. Lionel Messi. This was the easiest decision in the world 6 years ago, which is when I first made a series taking a look at the best player from every country from each of the world's 7 continents. Yes, we will go with 7 for now. And therefore the whole world, but it is a lot less straightforward now. Lionel Messi is 37 years old now, rather than 31, and he is playing for Inter Miami in Major League Soccer, rather than for Barcelona in La Liga and the UEFA Champions League. What's more, it's not as though there is a lack of competition. Argentina are the reigning champions of both South America and the world, having won their second successive Copa America in the summer just gone. It was their only goal scorer in the final, Lautaro Martinez, who came off the bench, having actually had a fairly disappointing 2022 World Cup, despite the team's overall success, who came closest to surpassing Messi for me, having been outstanding for Inter Milan for at least the last 3 years, and, unlike Messi, currently at the peak of his powers, aged 27. I also think Alexis McAllister deserves a shout, and, though I never considered them, it would be remiss of me not to mention both Emiliano Martinez and Enzo Fernandez, given that others would. Ultimately, and I am almost certain that this is the last year in which this is likely to be the case, I still think Lionel Messi is the best player on the planet from Argentina, despite the level that he is now playing at, and he has illustrated that at international level, captaining Argentina to glory in the Copa America only in July, in which he made the team of the tournament. Messi is no longer, though, make no mistake, the player that he once was. To get the best out of him now, teams have to be built around him, and great effort must be made to accommodate his talents. There is a reason, nonetheless, why the reigning South American and world champions are still willing to make those accommodations, and that is because, when he gets on the ball, Messi can still do things that no other player in the world can. Since joining Inter Miami over a year ago, Messi has made 45 goal contributions in only 33 appearances, and there is still enough magic in those boots, for me, for him to feature very narrowly ahead of Lautaro Martinez. The real question is whether Messi will still be so good and so decisive in games that Argentina feel compelled to accommodate him by the time the 2026 World Cup comes around, a tournament at which Messi will turn 39 years old. But that's not the subject of today's video, so I don't really know why I've needlessly opened up that can of worms. Honestly, this is like the whole continent theory thing all over again. Bolivia. Roberto Fernandez. It is a tough call when it comes to Bolivia, and I don't say that because there are so many outstanding candidates. Famed for having one of the highest stadiums above sea level in the world, which can make it a very hostile place for away teams to travel to due to altitude sickness, Bolivia recorded noteworthy victories against both Venezuela and Chile over the most recent international break, but outside of that, the national team has been in a state of long-term decline. Once ranked 18th in the world, and about 50th the last time that I made this series, Bolivia now find themselves all the way down in 83rd in the FIFA World Rankings, below Bahrain and Oman as the lowest ranked CONMEBOL national team. Goalkeeper Carlos Lampe is perhaps the most obvious shout, but the club Bolivar and Bolivia #1 is 37 years old now, has shown signs of regression, and was forced off injured in the first half of Bolivia's 2-1 win against Chile, ruling him out for the rest of 2024. The likes of Ramiro Vaca, who is back starring in Bolivia for Club Bolivar following a stint in Belgium, and maybe most notably young Santos duo, Miguel Terceros and Enzo Monteiro, both aged 20 and hopefully with bright futures within the game, earn very honourable mentions, but right now, it is hard to look beyond Roberto Fernandez as being Bolivia's star man. Capped 39 times by the national team at the age of 29, Fernandez is a marauding left-back or left-wing-back who has spent this season and last on loan in the Russian Premier League, firstly with Baltika Kaliningrad, and now for newly promoted Akron Solyeti. Played as a left winger recently for Bolivia, Fernandez has proven himself to be a creative menace, assisting both goals in that 2-1 win against Chile, as well as one of Bolivia's 4 goals against Venezuela. It is less than ideal for Bolivia that he is suspended for their next game against Colombia due to an accumulation of yellow cards. Brazil. Vinicius Jr. It's a similar dilemma with Brazil as it is with Argentina. Technically speaking, Neymar Jr. remains undoubtedly the most gifted Brazilian player in the world right now. For the national team, likewise, Neymar is still Brazil's talisman when fit, even after a whole host of injuries, age 32, and playing practically park football in Saudi Arabia. Had he not ruptured his ACL almost exactly a year ago, an injury from which he has returned to training, but not yet first-team action at the time of this recording, making it almost impossible to judge the level that he will return at, Neymar most likely would have featured. As it is, though, it's difficult to look beyond Vinicius Jr. Yet to really click for the national team, well, you could argue that Alisson, Bruno Guimaraes, his club teammate Rodrigo, and even Endrick look to be more important players at this moment in time. At club level, Vinicius has had 3 successive awe-inspiring campaigns for Real Madrid. The main man last season, along with Jude Bellingham, As Madrid won a La Liga and Champions League double, it is widely reported that Vinicius is set to win the 2024 Ballon d'Or. He has to feature, but his indifferent form for the national team made this a much more debatable decision than it ought to have been. Chile. Eduardo Vargas. Chile's fall-off in international football really needs to be studied, which is why I am studying it and working on a video all about it, which will be out during the next international break. Chile won successive Copa Americas in 2015 and 2016, having never been crowned as the champions of South America before that, along with making successive World Cup round of 16 appearances in 2010 and 2014, and a Copa America semi-final appearance in 2019. Since their second successive Copa America triumph in 2016, Chile have failed to even qualify for the 2018 and 2022 World Cups, and they won't qualify in 2026, despite the expanded format. They went out in the group stage of the 2024 Copa America, and they are without a win in any of their last 5 matches. The end result is that Chile have fallen from 3rd in the FIFA World Rankings in 2016, when they had a plethora of outstanding players at the peak of their powers, like Claudio Bravo, Arturo Vidal, and Alexis Sanchez, to being ranked 49th in the world now, the 3rd lowest of any CONMEBOL national team, with a 34-year-old Eduardo Vargas and a 35-year-old Alexis Sanchez, both way past their best, still constituting some of their best players. Club America's Diego Valdez, Mamelawedi Sundowns' Marcelo Allende, and another veteran, 35-year-old Universidad de Chile star Charles Arangues, who has now retired from international football, were all in the mix, as was, hand on heart, Southampton's Stoke-born centre-forward Ben Brereton Diaz. To be honest, I'm not entirely convinced that Eduardo Vargas is a better forward at 34, starring for Atletico Mineiro, where he has been since 2020, than Benjamin Anthony Brereton, as he was born, who joined Southampton in the summer for around £7 million. I have edged towards Vargas still, who is Chile's second highest scorer of all time and remains lively, but this was like picking who you'd most like to go to a rave with out of the 2024 Conservative Party leadership election candidates. I mean, it's pretty Patel, obviously, it had to be, but it's a miserable choice, and the best days of her career are still long behind her. Colombia. Luis Diaz. It's really tempting to pick James Rodriguez, who won the Golden Ball as the best player, as Colombia reached the final of the 2024 Copa America, and is so much fun to watch, but much as I hope is still around for the 2026 World Cup. The honest answer is Luis Diaz. Diaz had a tough upbringing, put on a diet plan by his first professional club in Colombia to gain 10 kilograms because they determined that he was malnourished. The first indigenous Colombian to ever represent Colombia's national football team, Diaz is of Wayuu origin, and aged 27, he's already won more than 50 caps for the national team. Quick, gifted, and incredibly determined, Diaz was sensational at Porto, preceding a potential €60 million move to Liverpool, and following talk that he would be replaced by Anthony Gordon in the summer, he has made a terrific start to life under Arne Slot, scoring 5 goals from the left flank in his first 6 games this season. Aside from James, honourable mentions also go to Crystal Palace's Daniel Munoz, his club and international comrade Jefferson Lerma, and Al-Sadd's Mateus Uribe. Ecuador. Moises Caicedo. I thought Moises Caicedo looked like he had the potential to be one of the best midfielders on the planet when I first watched him at Brighton, and as difficult as his debut campaign at Chelsea was, along with everyone else's season at Chelsea last year, other than Cole Palmer's, it should be said, I wasn't fickle enough to give up on him just like that. Sure enough, in a start to the season by Chelsea that has surprised a lot of people, I think Caicedo has been excellent. A graduate of the Independiente del Valle Youth Ranks, who was snapped up by Brighton in 2021, Chelsea paid an initial £100 million for Caicedo, potentially rising to £115 million, subject to add-ons. For that kind of money, you'd hope that he was quite good, but the fee isn't Caicedo's fault, and still only 22, he has plenty of time to prove his worth. At that age, Caicedo has already racked up 48 caps for Ecuador, on course to retire with somewhere close to 200, and his form for the national team has never wavered. Only Pervis Estupiñán, his former club and still international teammate, who has had a wretched time with injuries over the last 12 months, even comes close, making Caicedo maybe the easiest pick in this video. It wouldn't be a HITC7's video without an obligatory Hull City reference though, so a quick word for Oscar Zambrano, a brilliant young holding midfielder who would most likely have joined a Premier League club in the summer, were he not widely expected to receive a lengthy ban in the immediate future for doping. Paraguay. Diego Gomez. The second Inter Miami player, rather bizarrely to feature in this video, Diego Gomez is a bit less of a household name than Lionel Messi. Currently ranked 57th in the world, Paraguay haven't qualified for a World Cup since 2010. They went out in the group stage of the last Copa America, and there is little to split a whole host of their better players in my opinion. Palmeiras captain Gustavo Gomez, Newcastle's Miguel Almiron, Torino's Antonio Sanabria, Getafe's Omar Alderete, Nottingham Forest's Ramon Sousa, and Dinamo Moscow's Fabian Balbuena are all good but not exactly outstanding players. Meanwhile, Brighton's Julio Enciso, who looked like a superstar in the making when he first broke through the Amex, may well have taken it were it not for the meniscus tear that he suffered in August 2023, massively setting back his development. Ultimately, with so little to split so many players, much as he may be playing at the lowest level out of any of them, I found it hard to look past Diego Gomez. The 21-year-old joined Inter Miami from Libertad for a couple of £1 million over a year ago, and over the last few months, he has simply been outstanding. A clever and industrious central midfielder, Gomez caught the eye in the round of 32 and in the round of 16 of the Leagues Cup, and he's carried that form with him into Major League Soccer. And he was also arguably the best player on the pitch, as well as scoring the only goal of the game, when Paraguay recorded a shock victory against Brazil in 2026 World Cup qualifying last month. Peru. Renato Tapia. Peru qualified for their first World Cup in 36 years in 2018, with aging national team icons like Paulo Guerreiro and Jefferson Farfan still playing a starring role. Now aged 40, Guerreiro is actually still in and around the national team squad, meanwhile 39-year-old Farfan retired in 2022. Renato Tapia, then of Feyenoord, was just 22 years old when he went to the World Cup in Russia, but he is now arguably Paraguay's main man, firmly in his prime, aged 29. Once sought after by the likes of Tottenham and Liverpool, Tapia is a steely and tenacious midfield ball winner, now capped 86 times by the national team. Following 4 years at Celta Vigo, Tapia joined fellow La Liga side Leganes in the summer just gone, and he features for me, albeit only narrowly, ahead of the likes of Italian-born Cagliari striker Gianluca Lapadula, Copenhagen fullback Marcos Lopez, and Boca Juniors veteran Luis Arvancula. Uruguay. Federico Valverde. 2-time world and 15-time South American champions, albeit their last successes in those respective tournaments came in 1950 and in 2011, Uruguay are arguably the biggest overachievers in the history of international football. La Celeste might not be considered World Cup contenders these days, but they still punched well above their weight, ranked 11th in the world, and with star players including the likes of Ronald Araujo, Darwin Núñez, Rodrigo Bentancur, Manuel Ugarte, and Nicolas de la Cruz. All deserve honourable mentions, otherwise I wouldn't have mentioned them, but Uruguay's best player at this moment in time, hands down, is Federico Valverde. A tireless and versatile midfield workhorse, capable of playing over 60 games a season at full intensity for the most high-pressure club on the planet. If it came out that an active Champions League winner had failed the drugs test for doping, he'd be high up my list of candidates. I should clarify, for legal reasons more than anything else, that I am not accusing Federico Valverde of any wrongdoing whatsoever. I'm just saying that his energy levels and recovery are just so impressive that I wouldn't be all that surprised if it turned out that he was a drug cheat. I feel like I'm only making things worse. Capped 63 times by Uruguay and likely to hit 300 appearances for Al Madrid this season. Overall, obviously, not literally just this season. Valverde is among the best midfielders on the planet and is Uruguay's standout player in my eyes and, I would imagine, most people's. Venezuela. Yangel Herrera. Last but not least, Venezuela may be considered the historic black sheep of CONMEBOL, having never qualified for the World Cup and having had an abysmal record at the Copa America until the mid-2000s, owing, in large part, to the fact that it is basically the only CONMEBOL nation where football isn't the most popular sport, due to baseball's superior popularity ever since Venezuela won the Amateur World Series with a shot victory against Cuba in the final all the way back in 1941. With that being said, Venezuela's progress in recent years deserves some recognition. Now ranked 40th in the world, there are an unprecedented 4 CONMEBOL national teams below them. Venezuela have gone unbeaten in games against the likes of Uruguay, Mexico, and even Brazil over the last couple of years, and it is a distinct possibility that they will qualify for their first ever World Cup in 2026. The likes of Gremio's Jefferson Soteldo, Botafogo's Jefferson Savarino, Corinthians' Jose Andre Martinez, and Universidad Catolica's Rafael Romo have all played a key role in Venezuela's rise and would be worthy inclusions. But my pick for La Vinotinto is 26-year-old midfield sensation Yangel Herrera. Capped 37 times, Herrera actually joined Manchester City from Atletico Venezuela in 2017, spending the next 6 years contracted to the club, though he never played a game for them. He honed his skills during loan spells with New York City FC, Huesca, Granada, Espanyol, and Girona, before joining the latter, who are also part of the City Football Group, on a permanent basis in 2023. Herrera made 31 appearances last season as the beating heart of a Girona team that surprised everyone, finishing third in La Liga, and he is comfortably good enough to be playing Champions League football, which he is this season. Athletic, intelligent, and hard-working, but also technically underrated and capable of scoring a cracking goal from long range, Herrera starred for Venezuela in recent games against Canada and Jamaica, and they will need him to be at his best if they are to qualify for their first World Cup. This is an advert brought to you by me. A lot of people stop me in the street and say, "Wow, it's Alfie Botsama. You're the best football YouTuber in the world, and somehow even more handsome in real life than online. Please may I have your autograph, take a photo, and sleep with you?" And I had to say, look, I'm very sorry, that is awfully kind of you, but I do have a girlfriend. The other thing that they often say, I mean, almost always really, is there any way that I can get more of you? Is there perhaps a second channel of yours that I could subscribe to where you make to-camera documentaries about various interesting topics? And I say, yes, it's called the Alfie Potsama YouTube channel, and funnily enough, I just uploaded my latest video there about the Basque derby between Real Sociedad and Athletic Club, the history of Basque sport and culture, and why that game is so unique among major football rivalries. I know, it sounds fascinating, and it is, which is why I am advertising it to you now. No payments were made in exchange for this advert. HITC7s and Alfie Potsama are the same person. T's and C's apply. Now back to the video. Afghanistan. Omran Haidari. Going in alphabetical order, rather than from best to worst, Afghanistan are ranked 160th in the world, which, if we're being honest, isn't very good. Football faces stiff competition from cricket in Afghanistan, which is the country's most popular sport. Meanwhile, 3 decades of occupation by the Soviets and a US-led coalition, combined with Taliban rule over the last 40 years, hasn't exactly provided fertile ground for football to develop. Both of mine super in the top flight of Lithuanian football, who are also one of Asia's great players of the modern era, Kazuki Hondas, and ultimately, Australia, Matt Ryan. It is slim pickings when you compare the Socceroos' leading lights of their golden generation 20 years ago, Tuel, Viduka, Cahill, Schwarzer, with what the country has to offer. That's not to say that there is no reason for hope. 23-year-old Melbourne Victory star Nishan Velapillai has scored 3 goals from 5 caps since making his international debut. Hibs fullback Lewis Miller has impressed in his first 11 caps, and 19-year-old Nestoroi Irankunda, who is on loan at Grasshopper in Switzerland from Bayern Munich, is the man that many people hope or even expect to become Australian soccer's next megastar. Sheffield United loanee Harry Souttar and St Pauli captain Jackson Irvine both earn honourable mentions for now, but it is Matt Ryan, age 33, and now capped 97 times, who still just about retains his crown. Formerly of Valencia, Brighton, and very briefly Roma, Ryan recently joined Lens in Ligue 1, becoming their number 1, and he is still the Socceroos captain. Bahrain, Abdullah Yusuf Halal. A country of barely 1.5 million people, ranked 12th in Asia, Bahrain punched somewhat above their weight. Mohamed Mahoun and Ali Madan would both feature for several Asian national teams. Meanwhile, 16-year-old Syed Al-Wadai, currently in the youth ranks of Villarreal, recently made his senior international debut. For now, though, it's hard to look beyond Abdullah Yusuf Halal. One of few Bahrainis starring overseas, Yusuf is currently in his second stint with Bohemians in the Czech Republic, having also briefly made a big impression at Persija Jakarta in Indonesia. A pacey 6'4" talisman with good feet for a big lad, Yusuf has scored 13 goals from 89 caps for Bahrain to date, putting in 10th in their all-time scoring charts. Bangladesh, Hamza Chowdhury. Pound for pound, Bangladesh are among the worst national teams in the world. Home to 170 million people, Bangladesh are currently ranked 183rd in the world, below the British Overseas Territory of Montserrat, which has a population of 4,000. Nonetheless, Premier League utility player and FA Cup winner Hamza Chowdhury, who is currently on loan at Sheffield United from Leicester City, recently switched his international allegiance from England to Bangladesh, making this a very easy decision. Born in Loughborough, Chowdhury made 7 appearances for England's under-21s between 2018 and 2019, but he made his Bangladesh debut against India in February of this year. Bhutan, Shensho Gyaltshen. Ranking 1 place above Bangladesh in the FIFA World Rankings, despite having less than 0.5% of Bangladesh's population, Bhutan are comparative international powerhouses. Shensho Gyaltshen, known as CG7 in Bhutan, owing to his perceived similarities with Cristiano Ronaldo, is undoubtedly the nation's star man. Bhutan's first ever fully professional footballer, Gyaltshen is only 28, but he's already transferred an incredible 23 times. A journeyman of epic proportions then, Gyaltshen currently plays his club football for Lalitpur City FC in Nepal, but statistically speaking, that is likely to have changed by the time that you're watching this video. Renowned for his flair and skill, Gyaltshen is already Bhutan's all-time leading goal scorer, appearance holder, and national team captain, and they would probably make him their head of state if they weren't a constitutional monarchy ruled by the Wangchuck dynasty. Brunei, Faik Balkia. Speaking of royals, there is absolutely nothing constitutional or parliamentary about Brunei's monarchy. Brunei is an absolute monarchy where the Sultan exercises all executive power. The House of Balkia is often cited as being the second richest royal family in the world, which is very good news for Brunei's best footballer, Faik Balkia, who is a member of it. The son of Prince Jeffrey Balkia, and therefore the nephew of the current Sultan Hassan al-Balkia, Faik Balkia was born in America and educated in Britain. He spent time in the Leicester City, Chelsea and Southampton youth ranks before signing his first professional contract with Maritimo in Portugal. Aged 26, Balkia has spent the last 4 years playing in Thailand, firstly for Chonburi and now Ratchaburi in the top flight. Honourable mention goes to 23-year-old Hakan Yazid Said, who isn't a member of Brunei's royal family, for his sins, but plays his club football in Singapore and has made a greater contribution than Balkia to the national team themselves. Cambodia, Nick Taylor. There aren't many international footballers born in Texas, but Nick Taylor is one of them. Dallas-born Nick Taylor has a Cambodian mother, thus making him eligible to represent the 181st ranked nation in the world. Bangladesh, Brunei, and Cambodia, featured consecutively by alphabetical order in this Asia-Pacific video, are ranked 183rd, 182nd, and 181st in the FIFA World Rankings, by the way. I mean, what are the odds of that? Taylor made his name in college soccer in the United States before spending a season with MLS side Orlando City's B team. He joined Cambodian Premier League champions Svay Ring in 2023 and has so far won 22 caps for Cambodia's national team. An honourable mention must go to 31-year-old Chan Bathanaka, who was born in Cambodia and has had a much bigger impact upon the national team, and who, I think I'm right in saying, was Cambodia's inclusion when I first made this series 5 years ago. China. Wu Li. Another player who featured 5 years ago, I am pleased in some ways to be able to call one of China's homegrown players, rather than one of their Brazilian passport bros, still their best player in 2025. Tyus Browning, formerly of Everton, Allen, formerly of Red Bull Salzburg, and Zhang Yuning, formerly of Vitesse, all deserve mentions, but Wu Li stands out as certainly the best Chinese-born player of his generation. Now aged 33, Li has 36 goals from 99 caps for China since making his debut 15 years ago, putting him 8th in their all-time appearance charts and 2nd in terms of goals, just 3 behind Hai Haidong in top spots. Following 3 years at Espanyol, where Li played in both La Liga and in the Segunda Division in Spain, registering more than 100 appearances, he returned to Shanghai Port, formerly Shanghai SIPG, in 2022. Li is the Chinese Super League's all-time leading goalscorer now, despite his 3 years playing in Spain, above Brazilian-born Chinese international Elkerson and Israeli forward Aaron Zahavi. Chinese Taipei. Tim Chow. Taiwan competes under the name Chinese Taipei within most sporting arenas, including their national football team, as Taiwan's ruling party Kuomintang refused to compete under the provincial name Taiwan many decades ago. We need not get into the one China policy right now, not least since Chinese Taipei's best player, in my opinion, was born in Wigan. Tim Chow has one grandparent of Chinese descent who moved to Taiwan at the end of World War II, and he won 1 cap for Chinese Taipei in 2017. Tim Chow, that is, not his grandparent. He would have been very old. Why he hasn't won any caps since then, I'm not 100% sure, although the leading theories seem to be disagreements with Taiwan's FA surrounding appearance fees, flight tickets, and travel arrangements which surfaced around the time of his debut, as well as the fact that Chow has been playing in mainland China, in the Chinese Super League, since 2019. Honourable mentions go to Swedish-born Miguel Sandberg and Korean-born Wang Qingming. DPR Korea. Han Kwang-song. Better known as North Korea, but officially the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, or DPRK, the Samba of East Asia, as is apparently their nickname, have still got the second furthest of any Asian national team at a World Cup, and the furthest of any not on home soil. Park Duik, the star of that Korea team in '66, is still going strong at 88, by which I mean he's still alive, he's not still playing, but the modern-day main man is Han Kwang-song. One of a handful of North Korean players to move abroad during the late 2010s, along with fellow national team stars like Park Hwang-ryong and Yong Il-kwan, Kwang-song was often described in Western media as being a North Korean wonderkid. He joined Calgary in 2017 and later Juventus in 2020, scoring 11 goals in 36 games on loan at Perugia in Serie B. He then seemed to disappear, at least from a Western lens, during the COVID years, with rumours abound as to his possible circumstances or location, before resurfacing with the national team in 2023. Following stints in Italy and Qatar, and an extended career pause, Kwang-song now plays for North Korea's leading club, April 25. Honourable mentions go to Kangkuk Chol, Jangkuk Chol, and 21-year-old Real Song, who has scored 4 goals from his first 13 caps for the national team. Guam. AJ De La Garza. Guam is a US overseas territory with a population of 166,506, where football isn't the most popular sport. The fact that Guam are among the worst national teams in the world, therefore, shouldn't come as any great surprise. Nor should it, perhaps, that their best player, unchanged from 5 years ago, is someone who is now semi-retired. LA Galaxy legend AJ De La Garza, who previously played a starring role alongside the likes of David Beckham and Landon Donovan, retired from international football in 2019 and professional football in 2022. He now plays for Des Moines Menace in the quasi-fourth tier of American soccer, age 37, but he remains the best technically active player from Guam as far as I'm concerned. An honourable mention, of course, must go to Guam's all-time leading goalscorer Jason Cunliffe, who, unlike De La Garza, is still going strong for the national team at the grand old age of 41. Hong Kong. Everton Camargo. Hong Kong's two best players, Stefan Pereira
FC Groningen might just be the most underrated sub 11 I've ever done. Starting in goal, Marco Bizot. Definitely the weakest player in this team, but still an accomplished keeper no less. Left wing back, Filip Kostic. After being out at Groningen, he's gone on to have a stellar career throughout Europe. Left centre back, Virgil van Dijk, one of the modern greats, and who started back in Groningen. Centre back, Ronald Koeman.
strongest Indian player in the sport, narrowly ahead of Rahul Beke, Lalian Suarajate, and the great man Sunil Chetri. Currently starring for Goa, Jingam won the 2020-21 AIFF Men's Player of the Year award. He captains the national team, and he has been a standout over the last few international breaks. Indonesia. Tom Hay. Indonesia is an enormous football-obsessed nation with so much untapped potential. Due to a deeply dysfunctional and corrupt domestic football scene blighted by fan violence, as I have covered in a previous video on this channel, most of their best players are of Indonesian descent, but were actually born in the Netherlands, the country's former colonial ruler. Amsterdam-born Tom Hay takes the crown, a former Dutch under-21 international who plays for Almere City in the Eredivisie and only began representing Indonesia in 2024, but Venezia's Jayad Zez and Wolves' Justin Hubner weren't far off. In terms of players born in Indonesia, Oxford United's Marcelino Ferdinand and Persija Jakarta's Rizky Ridho both deserve special shout-outs, aged only 20 and 23, which is hopefully a somewhat positive sign of things to come from this sleeping giant. Iran. Mehdi Taremi. Iran have had three standout players for a while now, Mehdi Taremi, Sardar Azmoun, and Ali Reza Jahanbakhsh. And in that order. Azmoun is the leading scorer for the national team, despite being 2 years younger than Taremi, but he is also much more of an out-and-out centre-forward, whereas Taremi often occupies more of a withdrawn role and can sometimes be deputised out wide. Having scored 91 goals in 182 games over 4 seasons at Porto, so exactly 1 in 2, Taremi joined Italian champions Inter Milan in the summer, where he has been a regular fixture for the Serie A League leaders and Champions League quarter-finalists this term. They could be semi-finalists by the time this video comes out, or they could be out. That's just how football goes sometimes. Iraq. Zidane Iqbal. It is tough to separate some of Iraq's leading lights, like Hussein Ali, Ali Jassim, and Ali Al-Hamadi. You could have any Ali you like, if you will, but I've overlooked all three Alis in favour of Zidane Iqbal. A Manchester United Academy graduate, Iqbal was born in Manchester to a Pakistani father and an Iraqi mother. He made one first-team appearance for the Red Devils as a last-minute substitute in the Champions League, becoming the first British-born South Asian and the first Iraqi to play for Man United, and the first ever British South Asian to play in the Champions League. Iqbal, who has won 17 caps for Iraq since 2022, joined Utrecht in 2023, where he has been a regular fixture in the Eredivisie this season. Japan. Kaoru Mitoma. Japan are the best national team in Asia right now, having enjoyed a tremendous and meticulously thought-out rise that I covered in a recent video. There are several excellent Japanese players at this moment in time, from Junya Ito to Hiromasa Morita, but arguably the two standouts are Takefusa Kubo and Kaoru Mitoma. Kubo is the younger of the two, and perhaps has the higher ceiling. He's also already won far more caps than Mitoma, but I still can't look beyond the Brighton man. Having written a university thesis on dribbling, Mitoma knows how to beat a man, literally, better than almost anyone else, and since joining Brighton in 2021, he has been putting his theories into practice. Sought after by the Saudis in the January transfer window, who bid a reported €65 million, Mitoma reportedly turned down their interest because he wants to show more of himself, playing at the highest level. Jordan. Musa Al-Tamari. As ever, I have underestimated how long this video is going to take me, so I'm just going to have to try and speed things up. Musa Al-Tamari is Jordan's star man, ahead of the likes of Yazan Al-Naimat and Ali Al-Wan, as the only Jordanian currently starring in a Big Five league. Already capped 77 times by Jordan at the age of 27, for whom he has scored 22 goals, Al-Tamari is a gifted right winger who plays for Rennes in Ligue 1, who he only recently joined from crisis-ridden Montpellier. Korea Republic. Son Heung-min. South Korea have three outstanding players in Tottenham's Son Heung-min, Bayern Munich's Kim Min-jae, and PSG's Lee Kang-in. And although it is a tougher call now than at any other stage over the last 10 years, I still think that Son is just about the pick of the bunch. Though widely perceived to have been out of sorts in a wretched Tottenham team this season, Son has still been a virtual ever-present, scoring 11 goals and making 10 assists in all competitions. Hitting double figures for both goals and assists will be a career peak for most players, so it is a mark of Son's standards that he has put up those numbers despite a significant drop-off from previous seasons. With 51 goals from 133 caps to his name, Son is worshipped like a god in South Korea, and he will soon break his country's all-time appearance and goal-scoring records. Q8. Mohamed Dahan. Preventing prolific Q80 veteran Yusuf Nasser from making this list, Mohamed Dahan only began representing Kuwait in 2023. That's because, despite being born in Kuwait, he spent the first 23 years of his life as a stateless person before finally being given a Kuwaiti passport. He has since scored 7 goals and made 6 assists from only 24 caps for the nation that is ranked 134th in the world, who Michel Platini once bizarrely represented. Kyrgyz Republic, Joel Kojo. There are several talented native Kyrgyz footballers like Beknav Almazbekov, Gulzhiget Alikulov, and Alimaran Shukarov, whose names I am doubtless pronouncing flawlessly, as with every player mentioned in this video, but the national team's outstanding individual is Joel Kojo. Born in Ghana, Kojo was naturalised by Kyrgyzstan in 2023, having spent his entire professional career playing there. As soon as he was naturalised, however, he joined Dinamo Samarkand in Uzbekistan, followed by Iranian giants Esteghlal in January 2025. A lightning-quick, instinctive finisher, Kojo has scored 10 goals from 23 caps for Kyrgyzstan to date, and he will be the country's all-time leading goalscorer before long. Laos. Billy Kekyo-Fomphone. Just in case the names were getting too easy for me to pronounce, along comes Billy Bloody Kekyo-Fomphone. His middle name isn't actually Bloody. He doesn't have one, as far as I'm aware. Better known as Billy Kekyo, and I'm not just saying that to make my life easier, that is actually what he's better known as. Kekyo was born in France to Laotian refugee parents, and he spent time in France's elite Clairefontaine Academy and came through the youth ranks at Strasbourg. Only capped 9 times by Laos between 2021 and 2022 exclusively, by which stage he was already in his 30s, Kekyo nonetheless still scored 9 goals. Semi-retired now, age 35, playing semi-pro football back in France, Kekyo still manages to feature narrowly ahead of American-born Michael Vang and Laos-born Bumthachan Bumkong as Laos' most talented player. They are ranked 190th in the world. Lebanon. Sami Merhek. Lebanon have a handful of decent players, none of whom were born in Lebanon. Sami Merhek was born in Colombia, Basil Jaradi was born in Denmark, Malik Fakro was born in Germany, and Valid Shaura was born in Sierra Leone. Merhek, though only 18 years of age, is already the standout pick. Having just penned his first professional contract with Deportivo Pereira in Colombia's top flight, he has already scored 6 goals from only 6 caps for the national team. Hassan Matuk is Lebanon's all-time leading goal scorer on 26 goals, but on current form, Merhek could threaten that before turning 20. Macau. Chan Man. There are a few Macanese footballers who have tried their hand in Portugal, Macau's former colonial rulers, and Chan Man is one of them. Things never worked out for the 31-year-old in the Algarve, but he is a superstar for both Benfica and Macau and the national team, so the diminutive fullback features narrowly ahead of both Homan Fai and Nuno Pereira, the latter of whom is currently playing in Portugal. Malaysia. Hector Havel. Malaysia is a big football-loving nation who ought to be much higher than 131st in the FIFA World Rankings. Dutch-born Hector Havel, who won his first cap and scored his first goal for Malaysia in 2025, is the country's best player in my view, just ahead of Endrick, not that one, and Dion Cools, yes, that one. An industrious 28-year-old midfielder, Havel recently joined Portimonense in Portugal's second tier, following stints in Cyprus, Andorra, Spain and China. The Maldives. Mohamed Umar. The Maldives' all-time leading goal scorer Ali Ashfaq, the so-called Man of Steel, recently retired in his late 30s, which means that a slot has just opened up to be the main man from the Maldives. There is a bit less steel about him. He is a 5'5" wide man, and he's probably not far off retirement himself now, but I'm nominating Mohamed Umar. 78 times since making his debut, a whopping 18 years ago, Umair is a 36-year-old winger, come fullback, come wingback, who has spent his entire career playing in the Maldives. Mongolia. Gambayar Gambold. Look, I'll level with you. I'm not an expert on Mongolian football. I mean, sure, don't get me wrong. I know my SP Falcons from my Kassim Kulgud, but I'm not an expert. Nonetheless, I would be willing to fight anyone to the death over the fact that Gambayar Gambold is Mongolia's best player. A 25-year-old winger or number 10, Gambold is the first Mongolian footballer to sign a professional contract in Europe. Formerly at Pushkash Akademia, Gambold has been playing for Kamano in Slovakia since 2021, and he is head and shoulders above any other Mongolian player. I mean, honestly, anyone who thinks about throwing Philippe Chingzorik's name into the mix really ought to apologise. He's not even in the same league as Gambold. Myanmar. Ulang-2. Myanmar is a deeply troubled nation right now, which hasn't provided fertile ground for football to prosper for a very long time. Ulang Tao, the country's star man, has played his club football in Thailand since 2018. A diminutive number 10 with bags of flair and a dogged determination, 2 won 48 caps for Myanmar, aged 28, and currently plays his club football for Uthai Thani in Thailand's top flight. Nepal. Rohit Chand. Nepal's Nicky Butt, as he is affectionately known, Rohit Chand is a well-rounded midfielder who has been a mainstay in the country's national team for over 15 years. Once linked with the likes of Spurs and Arsenal, Chand has spent most of his career starring in Indonesia. An honourable mention goes to 22-year-old Lakan Limbu, capped 4 times by Nepal, who was born in Singapore and plays his club football in India. Northern Mariana Islands. Enrico Del Rosario. The Northern Mariana Islands are one of the most obscure national teams in the world. AFC, but not FIFA affiliated, which means that they don't even have a world ranking. NMI have played a grand total of 2 games in the last 2 years, and not in more than 12 months. 5 years ago, when I last attempted to name the best footballer from every country on earth, I named Enrico Del Rosario, then playing college soccer in the United States, as NMI's main man, and his father subsequently reached out to me. We have remained in sporadic contact ever since, around birthdays and New Year, that sort of thing, which means that I have had semi-regular updates on Enrico's career progress ever since. I am happy to concede, therefore, that this is the one country in this entire series where I am probably a little bit biased, and questions of my partiality are perfectly legitimate. The likes of Joe Wang Miller, Christopher Aninzo, and Gerald Aquino may otherwise have been in with a shout then, but it is my family friend Enrico of Northern Kentucky Nitro and the Ginga FS futsal team who, much like Mohamed Salah and Lionel Messi, makes it back-to-back inclusions. Oman. Salah Al-Yaya. I had the longest shortlist for Oman of any Asian nation, not because they are especially brilliant, but because there isn't a great deal to split a lot of their players. One of Oman's standout players, Abdul Salam Al-Makani, died earlier this year, aged only 36, with the cause of his death not having yet been confirmed. From a crowded field, it is Salah Al-Yayi who emerges victorious, capped 54 times by Oman, and formerly having played on loan in Qatar. Pakistan. Isa Suleiman. Pound for pound, surely the worst national team in the world, Pakistan is the 5th largest country on the planet by population, above Brazil, but ranks 198th in the FIFA World Rankings, below Timor-Leste and Gibraltar. It is almost inconceivable how they could be that bad. Isa Suleiman, who was born in Birmingham to British Pakistani parents, is the obvious pick as Pakistan's star man, having previously played for England from under 16 through to under 20 level. A graduate of the Aston Villa Academy, who now plays his club football in Azerbaijan, Suleiman features ahead of Alamgir Ghazi, who plays in Bhutan, Abdullah Iqbal, who was born in Denmark and plays in Sweden, and Yusuf Butt, who was born in Denmark and plays in Denmark, but all 4 of whom are Pakistani internationals. Palestine. Given that Palestine is a country under occupation and bombardment, with a besieged population of only 5 million, in direct contrast with Pakistan, they are relative overachievers. Palestine recently beat Iraq and earned a set of draws against South Korea, and star players include NAC Breda's Adam Kayed, Shrewsbury Class Asset Al-Hanouawi, and Zamalek's Yasser Ahmed. Palestine's standout player, I would argue, though, is Ode Dabar, their 26-year-old forward who has scored 16 goals from just 45 caps to date. A big, industrious centre-forward who was born in Jerusalem, Dabar joined Aberdeen on loan from Charleroi a couple of months ago, where he has since scored 3 goals in 9 games. Philippines. Bjorn Martin Christensen. As with a fair few countries in Asia, the best footballers for the Philippines are predominantly players of Filipino descent who were born elsewhere but represent them. So, Simon Lingbo was born in Norway, Gerrit Holtman was born in Germany, Paul Tabinas was born in Japan, and 19-year-old Santiago Rublico was born in Spain. The country's standout player, I think, probably, is Bjorn Martin Christensen, who was also born in Norway, in Oslo to be specific, and he still plays there now for KFUM Oslo in the Eliteserien. Qatar. Akram Afif. Akram Afif and Almoez Ali have been Qatar's star men for a little while now, but while Sudanese-born Ali is the country's all-time leading goal scorer, with 60 goals at the age of 28, it is Qatari-born Afif who is the more gifted player. Also 28 years of age, Afif began his professional career in Europe with a pen before joining Villarreal in 2016, though he never actually played for the club. He joined Al Sadd back in Qatar in 2018, initially on loan and then on a permanent in 2020, where he has since scored 136 goals in 214 games. A genuinely gifted left-sided forward, Afif is quick, he works hard, he can beat a man, and he is productive in the final third, making him arguably one of Asian football's outstanding individuals. Saudi Arabia. Saud Abdul Hamid. Maybe that's on this call in all of Asia.